It's your boy Hi-Fi Vega, and today we are doing the ultimate voltmeter shootout. We have 8 different contenders. Some of them have more features than the others, but we're going to judge them in 3 different categories. It's going to be a fun one, so strap in and let's go. We'll start with the Sparked Innovations Digital DC Voltmeter. This one comes in at $11. Pretty simple packaging, 5 to 30 volts, accuracy 0.05 volts. IP67 rated, water submersion, 1 meter, anti-short circuit protection. Alright, so let's get it out of the box here and see what we got. Alright, it's pretty simple. Just a regular old voltmeter. It's got a locking pin in the back, so wherever you mount it to, this threaded locking pin will work out for you. And then you got 2 little crimp pins to hook up your wire. Next up is the Dyno Racing Voltmeter. This one is a standard voltmeter, much like you'd see in a race car. I bought this voltmeter for $13. Sometimes it's up to $15. Sometimes they have it listed as $30 with the 50% coupon. So prices may vary, but expect to pay anywhere from $13 to $15. So this is definitely the biggest voltmeter on the list as far as size. And that's because it's meant to go into a pillar and be seen easily. See what all we get with it. All right, we have some instructions, the mounting ring, and then a small pigtail. As far as the voltmeter itself, it's physically kind of light. But other than that, it seems like it has a decent display. It's hard to see here on video, unless I get it in certain light here, but once we put power to it and light it up, we'll see if it looks good or not. Next up in the voltmeter lineup is the Stetsom Mini VT. This one I paid $16.99 for. Let's open it up right now and see what it actually looks like in hand. So I will say, even though this is a small voltmeter, the display so far looks to be the biggest. With that being said, let's move on to the next voltmeter. Now we're on to the Recoil LCV. So this is not a traditional voltmeter. This is actually a base knob with a voltmeter built in, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit and kind of have a little bit of everything. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. Here it is, an all-in-one package. You got your RCAs obviously for line in and out, and you have your base knob and then a small voltage readout. So yeah, that is the Recoil LCV. This is the only other thing you get in the package, just some mounting hardware. So the Recoil is a step up in price at $17.99, but you're getting more than just a voltmeter. You're also getting a base knob. So, all right, on to the next contender. This is the Stinger Digital Voltage Meter. This may be the most popular voltmeter that I see in general. This is a popular one. It comes in at $22.99. Definitely more expensive than the other options we looked at today by quite a bit. So I have high hopes for this. We'll see, good, bad, whatever it is. But first, we got to open it up. Inside, we have the old voltmeter with some mounting screws and some instructions. And then you got a sticky backing here that'll help you mount that wherever you like. It's hard to see, but you can slightly see Stinger there. I don't know, man. This one feels a lot cheaper than the others, but maybe it's just because this one can be opened. I don't know about this one for $23. But then again, until I get it turned on and see what it actually looks like, that'll make the final decision. On to the next voltmeter. This is the Sparked Innovations USB car charger and voltmeter. You have a USB Type A, USB Type C, and a voltage display on bottom. This one comes in at $24.99, and unlike the others, this only plugs into your cigarette lighter, so you're not going to be able to get voltage straight from your amp. So this will give you more of an overall system voltage, which is still useful as well. But let's open it up and see what it's like. So here it is. It's hard to get this one to focus on the camera because it's kind of translucent and clear, which is very cool. I mean, this is like, I don't know, this is deep nerd stuff. I like the way it looks. You'll never see this, but I think it's very cool. And I like the brass on the plugs here. Very cool. And to be honest with you, a lot of these plug-in cigarette lighter 12-volt port things do not feel very good. This one feels good. This one feels solid. It's not Obviously it's plastic, but it's not super plasticky. And I really dig this. This might be my favorite one so far. The voltage readout will be right here, and then obviously your 2 USB plugs. I'm excited to see how this one looks when we get it powered up. Now we are on to the Taramps VTS 5.1. This is not only a voltmeter, but a sequencer, and we're stepping up the price here. So this one is $29.99, and I think it's worth that price once you learn what this actually is. It's got a nice large display, clear cover. Looks like it'll be easy to mount. More importantly, what this is a sequencer. So you hook up your power, ground, and all that. Then you'll have like a 1 through 5 trigger, and this will turn them on in that order. When you turn off, if you're getting that thump, you can use this to help avoid that. And last but certainly not least, especially in the price range, this is an $80 voltmeter. By far the most expensive voltmeter we tested by more than double. I gotta be honest with you, it's kind of twice as cool in my opinion. You guys might have different opinions. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. And look at that, man. That is so cool. The thing with this is you don't get an actual readout. You get lights. And if you're like me, and especially my buddy Derek from Wilson Audio Labs, you love this style of voltmeter where you can see the action. So they've got it labeled from 10.1 in increments of 0.3, so 10.1, 10.4, 10.7, so on, all the way up to 15.8. We'll see what it looks like when we light it up, because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Now we're going to be going over many different variables when testing this, but I'm going to compare it to my Klein MM300. Now this multimeter, while not a very expensive multimeter, is a very accurate multimeter, and I can show you here. I did the calibration myself at work using a NIST traceable power supply and multimeter. So this is very accurate. This will work very well for the comparison, and we'll get true accurate volt ranges out of this, and we'll compare what these come with out of the box. All right, we're going to start with out of box accuracy. We're going to use this little Life PO4 battery here. We're going to see what the Klein gives us, and then we'll hook up the voltmeter and see how close it is. I've already got these test leads hooked up here. All right, we have 13.34 volts. Now, let's hook up our little Sparked Innovations. So the refresh rate is making it look like it's flickering right now, but it's very solid, and it's at 13.3. So this one is accurate, but out of the box it is spot on. So Dyno racing voltmeter here. Again, we'll verify first with the Klein meter, see where we're at, then we will check it with that voltmeter. 13.34. Let's hook up our Dyno voltmeter and see what it reads. All right, so out of the box, we're actually off. We're reading 13.2 volts. There may be an adjustment here that we can do. I don't see an adjustment on the back. I'll check the manual real quick to make sure there is no adjustments, and if there is not, then we'll go on to the next one. But I have read the instructions. There is no voltage adjustment on this. The out of the box calibration again. We'll verify with the Klein meter first. Make sure we're still at the same voltage. 13.34 volts. Now let's hook up the little recoil base knob and see where we're at. So we have 13.3 volts. It is spot on. So this one is accurate straight out of the box. That's good to know. Now we're on to the Stinger voltmeter. Let's verify the battery voltage quickly with the Klein multimeter. Still at 13.34 volts. Let's hook up the Stinger and see where we're at out of box. All right, we got 13.3 volts straight out of the box. It is accurate. This is one of the first ones that we have that you can actually adjust the voltage if you need to with that little potentiometer right there. All right, now we're into the Sparked Innovations USB plug-in. This one is a little tricky. I kind of had to rig it up to get the voltage to read. So I'm going to read the voltage again with the Klein tools. We'll see what it looks like there, and then I will show you the display. 13.33 volts here. Since I have this kind of rigged up to get the voltage here, I can't move it, but you can see the voltage is bouncing between 12.9 and 13 volts. So we're a good ways off. We're 0.3 volts off, which is kind of disappointing because I had a lot of hope for this one because I thought it was very cool. Just know if you're getting one of these, at least mine is 3.3 or 0.4 off, lower than what you're actually at. All right, now we're on to the Stetsom Mini VT. Let's see how close the voltage is on it. 13.3334, so we're kind of bouncing. Doesn't matter. We just need the first digit after 13. That's all this meter will read anyhow. This one is 0.1 off. So let me dig into the manual and see if there's an adjustment on this one to make it correct. But out of box, it is 1/10 of a volt off. From what I see in the small owner's manual they give you, there is no adjustable voltage or potentiometer that you could change. So this one is 1/10 of a volt off. Not terrible, but just something to note when you get one of these. Now we're on to the Taramps voltage meter and sequencer. So let's verify again with the Klein. Make sure we're still at 13.34 volts. We're still at 13.34 volts, so let's hook up the Taramps and see how close we are. So you get a kind of sequence startup here. It's showing 13.4, so this one is a little bit off. It probably seen it at a 13.5 and rounded up. If not, it would read 13.3 and we'd been in business. Now we're on to the most expensive one, the SMD VM1. Let's verify our voltage with the standard that we're using here first. All right, we are at 13.3334, somewhere in between there. Now this is going to be the thing with the SMD, is it doesn't have a readout, so it's going to give us somewhere within its range, and I think within its range is 13.4, so I suspect that is where we're going to be at. So this is showing us a 13.1. We see the back of the more engineering, but I do not see an adjustment on here. I might read through the manual on this one as well. We'll see if it mentions any adjustment, but straight out of the box, we're a little bit off. We're at 13.1 when we're getting 13.34 with our other one. So reading through the instructions, it says that it is internally calibrated, so it will not become miscalibrated. Unfortunately, this one's off a little bit. I think that I could probably send it back in and have them recalibrate it to make it right, but this one's a range anyways. It's not giving us a point, a 13.3, so we have 13.1 or 13.4. So this one I didn't expect to be spot on. It seems like it's reading a little bit lower than what it truly is. Now let's kind of talk about the display quality, starting with the Sparked Innovations. So again, as I mentioned, you're going to see flicker. You will not see this in person. This happens to be the purple color. You can get it in white, blue, and green, I believe. But yeah, I think the display is good. It's not too bright, so it's not really going to blow your eyes out, but it's very easy to see. Let me turn off the lights and then we'll see what it looks like. I only have very dim lights behind me, so we're in a pretty dark area. We'll see if this blows your eyes out, and honestly, I think this is about the perfect amount of brightness for one of these displays. It's not blowing your eyes out like crazy, and still looks pretty sharp, so pretty impressed with the first one at $11. Let's jump up to the next one and see how it does. Now let's take a look at the display quality. As far as the display quality, I think that this one is actually nicer than what you get from the Sparked Innovations. This one, as you can see, has no flicker, so it's a solid refresh rate even on camera. And I think that the actual volt readout is pretty sharp. It's a little bit sharper than the Sparked Innovations. And then you have, your volts, Dyno racing. So not too bad. I think the quality of the display is good on this, and it's a decent enough size display. So let's get the lights out, test it in the dark, and see if it's too bright or just perfect. Alright, just the two lights on the back, just like before. So at night, this is brighter than the Sparks Innovations. So you are going to get, and you can see the reflection on my finger right here. This may be a bit on the bright side when you get it in a dark situation. I've seen worse, but this one's middle road. I prefer the brightness level of the Spark Innovations. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to pick up the Dyno Racing Voltmeter. I think the display is pretty nice. It doesn't seem too bright. It's fairly sharp. It has a good refresh rate. So the only con about this would be it's smaller, but this is a base knob. So you're not going to have a huge display on your base knob unless it's a huge base knob. And this one's meant to be tucked away. But it is accurate, as we've seen in the out-of-box accuracy test. Good sharpness, good refresh rate, and it seems like a decent brightness. We'll go lights out, see how that test goes. But as far as just looking at it generally, I think it's a pretty nice display. Not too bad, maybe just a little on the small side, but keep in mind it is a base knob. So let's turn the lights out and see what it looks like. All right, we are lights out with the Recoil base knob voltmeter. All right, so the display looks a little washed out on the screen, as you're seeing in video here, but it's not too bad in person. It's still pretty clear. It's not washed out, and you don't see a huge reflection on my finger here. So it's not too bad. I think this is about the right brightness, and you'll be able to see it well without it blinding you. Now, talking about the display quality on the Stinger, it's not bad. So I think this part right here is pretty sharp, so 13.3 volts, where you can see it fairly sharp. The display part of the Stinger, that's fairly sharp as well, although it's over brightened, so it kind of looks a little distorted until you get up close on it. But yeah, the display quality I think is pretty good, minus the brightness issues I talked about earlier in the video, with the Stinger logo being way too bright in the dark. So in broad daylight situations, it's not going to be too bad, but you can still see a glow on my finger, even in full light, in full studio lighting. So definitely a bright display. It's fairly sharp though, so not terrible on that part. All right, this is the dark test with the Stinger voltmeter. I've got it face down here, and you're going to see as soon as I lift it up why. Look at that. So that Stinger logo is brighter than the sun. Look at, you can basically see my whole side of my thumb there from the brightness of that. But the brightness of the actual volt readout, 13.3, that's not too bright. It's a Stinger logo that is just too much, man. So yeah, this is not one that I'd want to have in my vehicle at night. Way too bright, and just drives my eyes crazy. Now let's talk about the display quality on the little Stetsom here. Now the display on this one, the refresh rate is somewhere in the middle. So it's better than the cheapest one and not as good as some of the more expensive ones that we've tried. But I think it's very serviceable, and in person it is absolutely solid. You don't see any of the bouncing around or flickering like you're barely seeing in this camera. As far as the size of it, I think it's a large enough display. I think the brightness of it is pretty good. So I'm happy with it in that sense, outside of it being a little bit inaccurate, which overall is probably a small thing. It's just something to note. So let's see what it looks like in the dark. See if it's too bright, too dim. Here is the Stetsom in the dark. Again, I just have a few lights on behind me, so it's pretty dark in the area that this is in. And you can see it's a little bright. I don't think this is too bright. You can see it reflecting onto my finger here, but this one's not going to strain your eyes that much, I think, at dark. I think it's okay. You do have a little light bleed outside of the numbers, so it's not as sharp as some of the other ones, but it is a big, easy to read display, so you have to factor that in when you're looking at them. Let me talk about the display quality. I think that the display quality is pretty good. Better than the cheaper one. The Spark Innovations that was $11 had a much slower refresh rate. This one has a nice solid refresh rate, It's illuminated on the outside, doesn't look too bright. It is a really good display, and then you have the rotating RGB that just kind of fades in and out. So let me cut off the lights and we'll see what it looks like in the dark. All the lights are off except for the ones right behind me. But as you can see, this one is somewhere between the brightest and the dimmest that we've had, right in the middle. You can see a little glow. I don't think this is too bright though. I think the outside is illuminated well. It's probably about the perfect amount of brightness. Now the display of the voltage, maybe a little too bright, and you can see it right here. Now let's talk about the display on the Taramps sequencer. This one has a pretty bad refresh rate. This one is similar to the cheapest, the Sparked Innovations here. It goes in and out because it went see, it goes solid there for a second, and then it goes in and out. It might have something to do with the function of the machine itself, or the function of the chipset itself. But as far as that display, I think that the letters are pretty crisp. You can make it out, but this might be my least favorite voltage display out of all of them, simply for the fact that it's so prevalent on the 8s that when you're looking at it, you can kind of get a little, you know, a little tricked into not seeing the 13.4. But it does the trick. I think it's okay. As far as brightness, I don't know. So we will try in the dark and see how bright it is. I can see some reflection off here. This looks like it might be in the level of the Stinger where it's pretty bright, especially because you have other lights in the mix here for the sequencing. But let's get the lights off and then we'll see what we think about it. Dark mode version of the Taramps sequencer here, and you can see that it is bright as the sun. You can see both fingers, top thumb, back. So yeah, this is way too bright. At nighttime, this is definitely going to be standing out like crazy. So I do not like that. It's a personal preference. You know, to me, I don't like it. So to you, you may like it. You may think it looks cool to have it like this. I will say that in person, all these lights don't blend together like this. You can see them individually. It's just that it's dark and there's a lot of light in one spot. So the cameras, it's hard to pick up on camera. All right, now let's talk about the display quality on the SMD VM1. So the quality of the display I think is very good. It's different than the other displays because it's just giving you a range here. The brightness, it seems like it might be a little bit too bright. We'll see when we turn the lights out. But that's only on the one that's indicating what the voltage is. On the other ones, I think it's about perfect brightness, and I think it looks cool to boot. So let's get it in the dark and we'll see, you know, how bright this is versus how bright that is. And you can already see a little bit of blue on my finger. Not terrible, so it might not be too bad. This is the nighttime test on the SMD VM1. So as you can see, these look really good. This LED right here it's very bright. Just a single LED by itself can illuminate my finger top and bottom and part of my hand right here. You do get a lot of bleed through onto the other voltages. In dark conditions, you'll know where you're at. You can see the voltage within a range. And if you're dropping too low, when you're looking at this in person, you can tell that that is 13.1 volts clearly. So as far as the light bleed through right here, it looks worse on camera than it is in person. I can see some light bleed through on the sides here, but you can tell exactly where it's lit. So you can see that it's 13.1 volt. You can easily see that with no problem whatsoever. In this section, we're going to talk about the build quality and other features, starting with the $11 Sparked Innovations Voltmeter. So as far as build quality, I mean, this thing is solid. You're not going to have any trouble with it. The mounting situation is solid. The prongs are solid. So build quality, I think it's great. Talking about other features, we'll have to hook it up here. So you can see here we have our 13.3 volts. We hold the power button. We get a battery percentage. Very cool feature. For being the cheapest voltmeter on the list, really dig this one for that battery percentage feature. It's definitely nice to have on a meter such as this. It's a capacitive button, so it's not a actual push down button. I think this one is well worth it. So let's go to the next one. Now let's talk about the build quality of the Dyno Racing Voltmeter. Overall, I think the quality on it is pretty good. The mounting ring is pretty solid. I don't think you're going to have any trouble with this build quality wise. There's not a lot of rattly parts. As far as features, I guess the feature would be that you can put it in a universal mount like you would in a race car. So having it right up there on your A-pillar would be nice with a universal mount. Outside of that, I mean, it's just a plain old voltmeter, but the build quality is good. It is plasticky, but you got to remember I paid $13 for this. Now let's talk about the build quality on the Stetsom Mini VT here. So overall, it is very plasticky. We've already talked about the display. I think the display is not too bad. It's a large display. So as far as build quality, yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. It's plastic. It's a $16 or $17 voltmeter. Depending on how you mount it, you shouldn't have too much rattle or trouble out of it. Outside of special features, it has none. This is just a straight up voltmeter. So if that's what you're looking for, this will do the trick. Now let's talk about the Recoil bass knob voltmeter. So this one isn't just a true voltmeter. It's a bass knob as its main function, and the voltmeter is just a side bonus. As far as build quality, solid. It is plastic. It's a $17, $18 piece. Can't ask for much more because the special feature of it is it's a bass knob. So you have a bass knob, you have a voltmeter, you have them both in one. It has a pretty solid mounting point that is included with it. So I think overall this one's pretty good. If you want a voltmeter and a bass knob, this might be the one to look at. If you're on a budget, obviously there's more expensive options out there that you may be looking at, but yeah, I think this one's okay. I like that it's accurate. I like that you have the functionality of a bass knob. Now let's talk about the Spark Innovations USB charger / voltmeter. So the build quality, this thing is built very well for a 12 volt port, cigarette lighter port piece. They're usually built very poorly. This one on the other hand is built very well. It's solid. I like, that it has USB-C and regular USB. Build quality is good on this. We've seen that the voltmeters is off, so that's unfortunate. But if you need a charger and you just want a general voltage range, I think this will do the trick. Now let's talk about the build quality and the features of the Stinger voltmeter. As far as the build quality goes, let me do a little test for you. I just want you to So it is adjustable and movable. That's one of the good features. So if it's not spot on, you can make it exactly what you need it to be. But the mount right here, it's just a little bit loose, man. I don't like that. It's not gonna break, but I just feel like it's gonna add a rattle at some point, or it could add a rattle, and it's not something that I really dig on that. Speaking to the build quality of the Taramps voltmeter and sequencer, it's very solid. It's got plexi on top, and it is very, very secure. So no worries with this coming loose at all. I think this is a pretty solid piece build quality wise. As far as features go on the Taramps voltmeter / sequencer, I wanted to get a tighter shot so you can see how it powers up. So once it powers up, it'll run through a cycle, give you the voltage, and then it'll start lighting these up one by one in sequence order to eliminate that turn on and turn off pop. So let's see if we can catch it. 13.4, you see it starting to pop up. There's number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So they all turn on in that order depending on how your pop works. It's also programmable, so you use this little button, and it's somewhat complex, but if you read the instructions and you look online, you can see how this actually works to help eliminate your turn on and turn off pop. Very cool feature. At $30, I think that it's well worth it. To most people, you get a voltmeter and a turn on sequencer. before, products that would do this that were programmable, you know, they cost you around 80 bucks. So this one is much more simple, but I think that at 30 bucks, it's very well worth that price if you need this feature. About the build quality on the SMD VM1, the build quality is good. The plastic casing is very solid. I got no issues with it. It's much like the Stinger in the way that it can come off, but it's much tighter. So it is on there. You're not going to get any rattle whatsoever from this. I wish at this price point that we had a, you know, at least an aluminum housing. Although, as far as plastic goes, this one's solid. You're not going to have any rattles whatsoever on it. Now, talking about the special features, it's just a voltmeter, so there's really not a lot of special features except for looking totally rad. I mean, the display on this, it looks super cool. It may not be for you, but for me, I absolutely love the way the display looks on this. So I'll zoom it in, we'll hook it up and just show you how it turns itself on whenever it gets power. And to me, that's the coolest feature of this, but if you don't like that, obviously it's not a feature for you. So let me get a tighter shot, we'll turn it on, and you'll see this thing shine. So basically that is the feature of this, you know, having the type of display it has, having the startup sequence. I mean, I just think it's a really cool piece. If you need very accurate voltage readouts, meaning you want it to read 13.2, not 13.1 or 13.4, this is probably not the meter for you. Final thoughts. So as far as these voltmeters go, the most egregious voltage off was about 0.3 of a volt, which at the end of the day is not a large margin, and the ones that were off a little bit might have been, you know, 0.1 of a volt. Or so if you need the most accurate voltmeter, you have a few options. You have the Stetsom, you have the Stinger, which you can make accurate, you have the voltmeter in the Recoil, the Sparked Innovations. Those are all going to give you the most accurate reading straight out of the box. Now, as far as usefulness, I will say the winner in that is probably the Recoil base knob. If you need a base knob, that might be the most useful outside of the sequencer. I think if you're having turn on pop and you need something to help you eliminate that, this would 100% be the most useful one here. That being said, the kind of budget pick, the one that I would like the most, is probably going to be the Sparked Innovations at $11, because it also has the battery battery percentage monitor on it. So that's a useful feature to me if I'm hooking it up to my auxiliary battery specifically. As far as ones that didn't do so great, I'm going to have to say that the Stinger is pretty disappointing. Even though you can adjust the voltage on it, which is a very nice feature to have, I think the build quality on it's not great. There's a potential to rattle very easily, and I think the LED is just way too bright. So for it being middle of the pack price range, I think that it's probably the least desirable for me personally. But if you need accuracy and you want to be able to dial it in, that is the meter for you. So it's not to say that it's a bad meter. It just, out of these, it's the least likely one that I would pick, mainly because the screen brightness on the Stinger logo and the kind of loose housing. As far as cool factor, I think by far the SMD VM1 takes the cake. It's just a very cool voltmeter. It's not going to be the most accurate because it doesn't have an actual digital readout, but I just think it's very cool. It's something I may use on my test bench, you know, just to have a little pop. I think it looks cool. And with that being said, what do you guys think about these voltmeters that we tested here? We have 8 of them. I think all of them are useful in their own ways. Depending on your budget, you can go from $11 all the way to $80, and depending on the features you want. If there are other voltmeters out there that I should test that you think would be better than all of these, or worse, or, you know, maybe more expensive, maybe cheaper, you name it, let me know in the comments below. Let me know, out of these 8, what is your favorite voltmeter? Which is the one that you would buy? Which one has the features that you like? I hope you enjoy these type of shootout style videos, and I try to be as comprehensive as possible. So with that being said, I hope to catch you on my very next video. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.